So I'm looking through my pictures of stuff that help jog my memory of some of my PTS memories I doing for my life story, so people don't have to get murdered like me in this very unusual way. My mother had Munchausen syndrome. My father's greedy and careless and very neglectful. He also likes to believe in fantasies and not take responsibility, and that allows him to blame me for everything. Oh, no, Zach's a storyteller. Oh, no, he's mentally ill. No, he tried to burn down my house. No, he cost me a fortune. No, he cost me money. No, 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 I gave him a great education. What are all lies? I'm missing 4 years of education altogether with none. None. We're not talking about just special ed. Yes, there was a lot of shitty education, but there were years where I had no education whatsoever, where I just played in the woods looking for bugs and built mud castles and went with the older kids to build a weird wooden log house outside the size of a real house and went out looking for wild pumpkins and made out with another 8 year old under a apple tree with lots of bees flying around. And, that was my classes for 2 years. And then before that, I had a reevaluation in Texas. And before that, I passed all my grades. But my mother decided she wanted to hold me back. So she screamed at the teacher. The teacher said, no, he needs to go to second grade. My mother said, hold him back. The teacher said, no, he needs to go to second grade. My mother said, hold him back. They fighted for a month. Eventually, the teacher agreed to keep me in first grade if she was allowed to write a note. That my mother forced it. And so that note followed. My mother forced it. My mother forced it. And I didn't know about this. I learned this later. My mother, a bunch of people had a talk with me, how my mother had me held back. It had nothing to do with me, and there's paperwork on it, and the teacher wanted me to know this and all that stuff. Because apparently I did pass first grade, and I was ahead of class. What I knew I was at the top of that class, came in third in the spelling bee back then. But by the time I got to Texas, I'm already missing like 2 years or like just blanks of education. And then by the time we get to New Mexico, they add another 2 years. And then there's a whole another year and when we were living in Chelmsford, when we first moved there was some school far away when I was really young, like 11, 12. And that school, I did a whole year where the most of education I got was play wiffle bat outside. That's the best I got. I got to play wiffle bat outside because it was coming to school, play with my toys. Teacher comes in, counts us, leaves the room. We play with the toys. We go eat lunch. We play with our toys. And then we go play wiffle bat. Then we play toys until the bus picks us up. These are 12-year-olds doing this all year round. I reported it to my parents, so did other kids. Eventually, the school got caught. But see, my father and mother, after I told them there were no classes for months and months and months, nothing changed. My teacher just punished me. She brought me into class and said, because Zach told his parents we weren't doing classes, we're going to sit at our desks all day long. And she sat everybody at their desk and had me stand up at the front of the class. But she actually didn't do anything. She just kind of like sat back at her desk for an hour, played on her phone, then left the room. When she turned her back, another asshole kid mooned him. They all were yelling at me. And then they all got out of their seat, played. I went back to the seat like I wasn't supposed to. Nobody cared. And I just kind of was like, what the fuck? Why am I punished for telling my parents that this is going on? That we're just playing with toys all day? I don't understand. I just don't understand. And every time I tell my parents something's going wrong, they just blame me. So the more I try to tell my father and mother that something's wrong, the more they hurt me and blame me. So I'm not going to go a second round of people hurting me. No way. My mother and father did that already. I'm on my 100th hurt by the time I'm in this school. I'm already missing like 4 years of education. My mother's drugging me silly. What she's going to do next? Put me on 3 meds, all because I told them the school wasn't giving me classes? And then while all the other parents are suing the shit out of the school, what are my parents going to be doing? They're going to be loading me up on drugs, calling me stupid. Yeah, great job, guys. The school is fucked up, and you guys are fucked up, so I get hurt. Fantastic parenting. No, instead it's deadly parenting, and now I'm 32. I'm responsible for my own life. So I want to go to my work. I have a job, I have an apartment, I have things, right? No, I don't get to keep them until my father takes responsibility. I can go into the doctors until I'm blue in the face and tell them I need epilepsy medication and paperwork on my disability. But unless we get some old records put together, or my family takes responsibility for some of the old records that exist, or we just talk about this in general where it matters, or the doctors see me injured on the side of the road for another 10, 20 years, and if I live through it and I'm in a wheelchair, maybe, just maybe, then I can go back to work when my legs don't work no more. Yes, when my legs stop working and I've had 10 more years of head injuries on the side of the road, then the doctors will give me the diagnosis and paperwork. But then I can't work no more. And I want to go back to work. All I need is paperwork and epilepsy medication. There's a lot I want to do in life, and I can't do it like this. I can't do it with the two fucking assholes making a storytelling time about my life. I play with matches at age 5. My nephew plays with a lighter at age 5. My other nephew, I'm sure, played with matches later in life or some type of fire with his, or maybe he didn't. But I know for a fact that my 5-year-old nephew Javier did the exact same thing I did. He took a lighter and he tried to look at the glowy thingy where he wasn't supposed to at school. Me, I took a book of matches off the table. I wanted to look at the glowy thingy where I wasn't supposed to in my closet. Now, did anything bad happen in either situation? No. The kid needs to be spanked and told, don't play with fire until you know how to use it properly. The kid needs a talking to. But my mother tries to brainwash me into believing that I'm some evil kid trying to burn down the entire house just because I played with a book of matches. She says, you could have burned down the house, so you're trying to burn down the house. Yes, see those book of matches there? Because those are there, you're trying to burn down the house. Because you could have burned down the house. You need to admit it. I'm going to go get your father, and you need to tell him you tried to burn down the house. All this shit is confusing for a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old. It's fucking nuts. But how about my nephew? What happened with him? He had me and his mother. We told him what was up. Hey, oh, okay, same situation. I said, I don't know, I don't know. My nephew said, I don't know, I don't know, when they were confronted with, why did you do it? I didn't know. I wanted to look at the glowy thing, but I said, I don't know, I don't know. But my nephew, he wanted to look at the glowy thingy. But what did he say? I don't know, I don't know. That's what a 5-year-old knows. Nothing. So you're supposed to tell him, okay, if you want to look at the glowy thingy, if you want to use matches, you have to go to me, and I'll show you how to use them when you're a little bit older. That's what you need to do. Instead, my mother brainwashed me, drugged me, hurt me, started to convince my father that I'm somebody trying to take his whole house away from him, making my father scared of me. Like, oh, this kid's going to take my whole house away? Fucking nuts. Nuts. There's nothing here. Now, why does my mother think a little 5-year-old's out to get her? Like, for instance, I had a swimming medal with my old last name on it. When she found out that my old last name was on a swimming medal I won, she went bonkers. Started to think that children were out to get her. She started to think that that medal was stolen, that her son's making up stories, that everything must belong to an African American kid because he's athletic. If it's a basketball, swimming medal, trophy for baseball, whatever it is, it must belong to the African kid. So these fantasies that my mother had really drove me nuts. But my father was believing in them. He was, oh my God, deep in this shit. Still today, he's in fantasy land made by my mother. All these lies and manipulations that anybody can tell you is not true. Like, for instance, if your son is having side effects, and those side effects happen to be on the side effect list on your medication, you should consult a doctor. But my mother said that if you looked at the side effect list on the paper, then instantly I would have all those side effects. But I was having those side effects before, and we still never looked at the paper. My mother would not allow me or my father to know all the side effects, and if I did, she told me that I would instantly think I had them. Why? Because she was watching me have these side effects 24/7. She knew what she was doing to me. She used to be a nurse. She knew she was hurting me with pills for a purpose that she had. My mother had to get her way, and she was going to do it through pills and drugs and drugging a little orphan boy. She knew exactly what she was doing, and she was trying to convince me and my father to go along with this because we didn't know nothing. I knew nothing about medications, pills, side effects, illnesses, overdoses, allergy attacks, rashes, any of it. Neither did my father. If my mother was railing me with a goddamn hot poker up in the room and I was screaming, and my mother said it's called the red hot poker enema, I'm just helping him out, my father would be downstairs going, oh, okay then. You're just helping him? Okay, good. If my mother was trying to get me prescribed some drug like, let's say, schizophrenic medication, that would fuck somebody up if they're not schizophrenic. Let's say my mother was trying to drug me with that. My father would be all for it once when she got the prescription. If my mother got the prescription from a doctor by just spewing lies and stories and then tried to give it to me and forced these on me or told me to take them, my father would let her drug the fucking shit out of me until I'm a loopy mess on the floor drooling. And then when I can't stay awake at school or something like that, they'll blame me and go, see, he's stupid. Or when they cut off 4 years of my education where I don't get to go to school, then they try to say it's a mental illness. Or then when they try to put me on meds and I'm looking tired and down and like that, then they say it's depression. But then when the medications go away, I'm back to being normal. Oh, we need more drugs. He's too hyper for us. But I'm normal now for everything else. I'm speaking, well, to a point, my legs still don't move right, my arms still don't move right, and I still sound funny, and I can't always say certain words thanks to the overdose, and that makes it a little confusing. But as far as depression, anxiety, all this type of shit, it all comes from the patient me. You have to be listening to me to know what I have. If you're listening to a crazy mother that is not listening to the patient, her son, if she doesn't care what happens, then I'm going to get hurt. So if you want to know about Zach, you need to speak to Zach. You can't look at Zach's medical records. Patricia is the one speaking in those medical records. You can't talk to my father. He wanted nothing to do with Zach. He didn't want to get to know to Zach. So he just believed whatever fantasy was being fed to him. You can't believe any of those people. Who can you believe about Zach? Zach. He's happy to share all his dirty secrets, his context, all of it. But don't think that other people hurting you isn't going to be involved, because I am hurt. A lot of my illnesses come from other people doing stuff to me. The only injuries I have that I did to myself, partly to myself, is hepatitis. That's it. Hepatitis, and I took some cough medicine, and as a teenager, that might give me an enlarged prostate when I'm an adult. That's it. Cough medicine, hepatitis C, by the way. And that's it. I don't do any more crazy stuff. I have no more diseases to get, but I have a lot of injuries stacking up from people that wanted to do stuff to me. I got injuries from the druggings. I got injuries from the fact I can't drive. I got injuries from the doctors making decisions like having me crawl across traffic. I got injuries from having to work because I can't collect Social Security because my father used me to make money and fuck me over. Yes, when I bailed him out of Social Security out of court, he fucked me over. He made a deal, and he broke it for profit. I was a grown adult. He made a business deal. He had to go to court, and he was going to have to pay 12 grand, and he fucked up big time. They had proof. They had him caught in with his hand in the cookie jar. He had the state bringing him to court. He had the program as witnesses. They had me not collecting a dime, never knowing about it. They had everybody after him. It was way too late to be doing this. And I would have been bringing up how I didn't get any clothing during the years before that. All those years before that, I wasn't getting clothing. My father would just buy clothing for me and call it done. I brought him clothing shopping, we're done with it. But no, I need to go out every month with the other kids going clothing shopping. That, we grow. The clothes you bought last year might not work for me. And a lot of them get ripped, destroyed, or they get dirty. But no, my father doesn't care if I'm wearing short shorts because I outgrew it. They're still good. They're fine. I need to save some money so I can go on vacation. See, that's his attitude. I can save money on his clothing check, and I get a better vacation. I can get better things from my house. this little orphan boy, he doesn't need to be dressed like a normal orphan. All these other kids with no parents, they're dressed fine. All the other kids in his school, they're dressed fine. Zach is the one kid who can't seem to get any clothing that fits him that he can wear. It's all just either church clothes, short shorts, stained t-shirts, just a lot of crap that nobody in any of my schools or programs or anywhere in Massachusetts would wear. I mean, can you imagine a 13-year-old boy wearing booty shorts and wearing a regular T-shirt that's a small and that just has a smile? No, smiley face I probably would like. Flames on the sides because my shirt was a year old. I used to like flames when I was 11. Now I'm 13 and I got flames on the side, booty shorts. Oh, and I'm wearing a hat that says a gunkwit on it. Yeah, that's great clothing. Or how about this one? I'm wearing Kirkland jeans with a pair of cowboy boots, and I'm wearing a church shirt to school. How do you think I look like that? Cowboy boots and a church shirt. Yeah, a church button-up shirt with the cuffs and everything. Maybe even a tie. Yeah, I'm sure kids dress like that. No, they would tell me not to come in like that anymore. They would laugh at me every day I went in. And even then, I don't have enough dress shirts. They would all get messy. Dress shirts are hard to keep, like, from wrinkling up or stain free. They stain real easy. And then once when they're stained, I'm the kid with the giant spot on his shirt. So yeah, you got to go every month and get clothing. Now, where was my father every month when it was time for me to go clothing every month? I mean, the program takes a van of kids to cash their clothing checks and then goes to 4 or 5 different clothing stores, watches the kids to make sure they buy clothing in their sizes, whatever, and then the kids bring it back every single month. I was never allowed to go clothing shopping in the 4 years that other kids did this. 4 years, never. I never was allowed. I still to this day buy stuff at Salvation Army out of my own pocket, just like I did when I was 13, 14. When I was 14, I used to go find cigarette butts on the side of the road, take the tobacco out. The store up the street would sell to me papers. This was before I had a fake ID. When I had a fake ID, I used to trade cigarettes. But they only had a fake ID when I was 16. That wasn't good. Only like one place would take it. It was really just a paper ID I made. But anyways, out of a learner's permit, I had a learner's permit. That's illegal, but I was underage. I would never do that again. I would never try to make a fake ID. I was just a 16-year-old stupid. But before that, at 14, I used to take tobacco, put it in papers, because that's all they would sell me is lighters and papers. I could buy lighters and papers at 14. That's it. So I'd get the papers, take the tobacco, roll them, put a filter in it, and trade them at the program, sell them at the program for clothing. They would go get me clothing. They would wait a month and then give it to me. At first, they were giving me the clothing for free. The kids always felt bad for me. All these orphans with no parents felt bad for the kid who was adopted and never was allowed to get clothing. So they used to want to give me clothing out of their clothing money, but I would have to turn it down. The program told me, tell them no, tell them no. You have to tell them no, you have to tell them no. So I always had to tell them no, and the kids still tried, but then they would get caught and I would have to get taken away. And the kids were always wanting to get me clothing because my father wouldn't. Yes, another 13-year-olds in this program wanted me to have clothing because my father wouldn't get it for me. And every single month when I asked about it, they said, ask your father, ask your father. The program said it's something to do with your father. Ask your father, something to do with your father. Ask your father. So I went up to my father. I asked him, why do these other kids get $200 to go clothing shopping every month and I get nothing? I'm stuck in the program with nothing. And you know what my father said? You're lying. They don't get a clothing check like that. And then he walked away. No clothing money for me. I asked him again, called me a liar again. Then and I was so sick of being called a liar, it took me like a year before I brought it up again. But a year later, I told him, can I please go clothing shopping at the program? And he said, no, I'll bring you. Then I asked him again, the other kids go clothing shopping at the program. Can I please go with the other kids? No, I'll do your clothing shopping, he said. So he controlled it. And I looked like a hobo kid for my whole childhood. wearing extra, extra large. Now he'll say, I got him the nicest stuff. I got him cowboy boots and suits and ties and all these nice clothing. I got him these nice silk pajama bottoms, and I got him bathrobes, and I got him socks. He had like 200 socks. You never believe this kid. He used to dirty up socks like crazy walking around barefoot. Yeah, we used to get him thousands of socks. We got him plenty of clothing. We got him like 1,000 socks a year. This kid was always getting socks. That would be my father's answer. Not, did Zach seem to be normally clothed like the rest of the kids? No. He'll talk about how he bought me 1,000 socks a year. Like somehow that's going to make me clothed. I mean, yeah, I could walk around in underwear, socks, a bathrobe, pajama bottoms, and a nice suit and tie, but you can't wear that to school or the program. And yes, I did have a suit, a tie, a church shirt, cowboy boots, dress shoes. I had like one pair of sneakers a year, two pairs of sneakers a year. I had one pair of good boots that actually worked and fit me. So I used to keep them at home so none of the other kids would take them. And my mother gave them away. Yes, my one good pair of boots. The one pair that I loved, I would wear them whenever I wanted to really go out in the snow or I really was cold out. I would grab those or ask for those. Those are the best. Those are my favorite. I even kept them nice and clean. They looked almost brand new. And guess what? My mother, without asking, steals my property and gives it away. Now, I guess they bought it for me, so they can be Indian givers, but then you can't count it as they bought me stuff. If they bought me stuff on Social Security, like a pair of boots, like if my father says, no, we bought him shoes and boots and all that, but then you took them from me and gave them to somebody else. So you used my benefits on somebody else. I still needed those boots, and now I was without boots. I'm in a program without boots, no boots, and I just watch the other kids go out and get their boots every month, every year. Just write a check, and it gets done. But no, my father can't write a check for me. He wants to control the money for himself. What became a problem, very big problem, because I had no idea he was doing this, and he got caught. He got caught when I was almost 20 years old, and he was stealing my rent money. Instead of stealing my clothing money, he started stealing the rent money. Yes. And the program, the first one, yeah, I was only supposed to go clothing shopping with that money. Everything else was covered. And my father could keep on spending the money on his home, giving himself a big house. But when it came time for me to go to the 18-year-old program, I went there early. I'm now 19, almost 20. I'm now about to apply for Social Security myself because I'm clearly disabled. We find out my father is in trouble. Because I applied for Social Security myself, we find out my father's been stealing the rent money. My Social Security was already there, and it was supposed to be going to the program for rent. But my father lied on the program, said that I wasn't able to get Social Security. I had no income, no money coming in, and they gave me free room and board because I wasn't getting the Social Security that the rest of these people who are 19 in this program were getting. But in the end, I was getting the same thing that AP was getting upstairs. I was getting the same thing that the rest of these people were getting. The only difference between me and AP upstairs was AP, $600 of her Social Security went to her rent every month. For me, my $600 in rent was stolen, and my father lied to me, lied to my rooming house / program, lied to the state, lied to Social Security, lied to everybody so he could keep the money. And now I end up owing 12 months of rent that my father stole, and now he has to go to court to pay it back to the state, and then the state has to pay it back to me, and then I have to pay it back to the rooming house. But guess what? I bail my father out. I make sure he doesn't have to go to court. I just say one thing: you need to fix this Social Security bullshit so I get my check to live off. Because I need a place to live. I need my first apartment. They were going to get me my first apartment, but you just got me thrown out, motherfucker. I was on a work program. I was going to get my first apartment with Aaron Mears. We were supposed to move in to my first apartment, but I lost that the minute you stole money that was supposed to go to this program for rent. You took money that wasn't yours to take, and now it fucked everything up. Now I'm getting thrown out if you take me home or not. If I go move in with my mother and father, fine. But if I don't, I get thrown out, and then I have to press charges against my father with the state, who's already filing charges. But I don't sign as a witness. I bail my father out. He doesn't have to go to court. He just has to try real hard to do the right thing by me. He can't. He bails out, wants the money, runs off, sells the house, decides to be greedy. Who fucking cares? I already got out of trouble. Who cares about Zach's future? So what if I took his first apartment? So what if I took his money? So what? So what? And now I lost my wife. So what? I'm mourning my wife. But how about your son? He's mourning his mother. How about your son? He needs to work. How about your son? He had no education. How about your son? He needs to eat. How about your son's health? It doesn't look like he's very healthy. It looks like he might die soon. None of that matters as long as my father can keep spending money to make himself happy. And he'll say, "Oh, I spent a fortune on that kid." No, what he means to say is he spent a fortune on his wife's ventures to do stuff to me. Like when his wife wanted to drug me in some type of hospital or get me some weird treatment, yes, he got the payment. The only thing my father ever spent money on that I wanted was toys. Lots of toys for when I was really young. Lots and lots of toys. But from the age of 14 to an adulthood, he saved a fortune. No cars, nothing. Every single dime he could squeeze out of me, he squeezed. So during adulthood, 14 to an adult, he saved on everything a father was supposed to do. Everything from a car to gasoline to classes to college books to high school books to anything to learn or anything if I wanted a special class to go to, none of that mattered to my father. It all mattered because my mother was taking up all my time with their bullshit programs and this and that and ballet, whatever my mother wanted. And that's what my father really did. He spent money on what my mother wanted. If I wanted him to save money, I said, "Don't put me in the program. Save your money," I told my father. I told my father, "Save the money for Via Santa Maria. I don't want to go. Save your money and don't." But then he throws it in my face. "I spent money to have you choked and poisoned a bunch of times. I had you drugged. I spent money to have you drugged. I spent money to hurt you like this, and I spent money to hurt you like that." And I'm like, "You dumbass, you spent money to hurt a child. And the child told you, no, don't, no, don't, no, don't, no, don't. I told you don't spend the money." So he didn't give me any special money. He bought me some toys. All the other stuff, other than a Herbst appliance, I got to agree. Getting braces is something I would have wanted. I don't want all the pill dry mouth, rotting out my whole body and teeth and everything else. I don't want these pills hurting me. So it doesn't really matter in the long run unless we get my mother to stop fucking with doctors. But I did want the braces. So that money, but Social Security also, he got that money right back. He was an accountant and he accounted his money right back. Because I ended up living in a program about the same time, what he did not have to pay for. That was state ran. He had to pay for some of the programs, which he sued and got his money back for. But he'll leave that part out. He'll rub in my face how he paid for Via Santa Maria when I told him not to. And that place was literally not built yet. There was nothing. It was a big giant mud hole. You had a bunch of snakes and a mud hole, and the basketball court was just two basketball hoops and no court. There was no cement that was even usable. So you just could play horse and that's it. And remember, they got 13-year-olds and older kids, and there's no education. There's no teacher that teach all these different age groups. The place isn't built yet. They don't have the proper staffing, so they have to take a big giant black guy off night crew who's not trained to work with children. So what does this guy do? He gets thrills out of taking the little white girls and the little white boy and choking them around the neck until they turn blue and throwing them around like rag dolls. Even when the fridge breaks on a weekend and this black man doesn't want to deal with the boss man, he tries to force feed these food to every kid there. Now, the younger kids get choked or they have to eat it, so some of them ate it and got food poisoning. While the older kids say, "I'm not fucking eating rotten food, I'll get sick." And then he just yelled at them. But of course, we all got food poisoning. Nobody cared. How about when the black man used the younger kids and then everybody but the teenagers, everybody but the 13-year-olds went out to play tag. Now, I didn't get the concept of how light tag works. I thought you had to tag the person with your hand. So I went in a thorn bush to hide, all bloodied up. But guess what? This mission was to try to catch or shoot the black bear that was going through the dumpster. This black man came back later talking about I couldn't get the damn black bear or the cougar, nothing came out. He was having us at like about midnight. He woke us all up off the floor and asked us if we wanted to go play in the outside on the mountain we used to hike on at night. And then he went back, put something in his inner pocket. I'm guessing as an adult now that was a bear gun or bear mace or something. And he brought all these 12 kids out in the dark with flashlights to run around in the dark on a mountain called literally in the middle of nowhere with no transportation to an emergency room, rattlesnakes everywhere, no supervision. One of us was going to get killed or eaten if we continued. And I was covered in thorn blood. I literally was covered in bloody thorn prints. So, yeah, that was a dangerous situation. But there was a lot of them there. But my father, instead of saying, "Oh yeah, you probably did miss of education, huh? Oh man, we should, there were 2 years. You got nothing? Yep, nothing, Dad. That sucks. 2 years and you got no education. Man, that fucking sucks. And I thought it was bad me having to go to school. You weren't even allowed to go to school, son? Nope, I wasn't allowed to go to school there. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I know you needed an education. I just figured this place would have one. I understand. That's how the conversation is supposed to go. Instead, I'll say, Dad, this happened. I didn't get an education here. Well, he knows all that other stuff. He knows he sued them for it. He knows that place was bad. But he, instead of taking responsibility and going, holy shit, you're missing 4 years of education and I didn't even know. Is that why I thought you were slow? Yep, that's why, Dad. I'm missing education and I have a neurological disorder that affects my speech. I can say things like nervous system or extremities, but instead, if I'm having like I'm actually losing it now because the meds are starting to wear off the epilepsy medication. But extremities, I can't always say that word. If you catch me at the wrong time, I'll have to say limbs, arms, body parts, and it makes it harder to describe. And I don't sound as smart or as intelligent, and my speech gets really girly sounding and high pitch. Whatever. But that is because of something you did to me. You left me on the floor during an overdose, and I forgive you. But what are we going to do about this stuff? Oh, no, it never happened. That place gave you a great education. I don't want to hear about it. It never happened. You're a fantasy. You're mentally ill. Stuff like that is what comes out of my father's mouth. Instead of saying, what can I do to fix this? Well, I guess we could have the doctors know what's really wrong with me so that way I get the right epilepsy medication. That way, maybe one day I can go to work. Maybe we can fix Social Security now. If we fix Social Security, I mean, I know you collected. You still owe me that favor. I bailed you out of court. I still don't see anybody helping me with Social Security. You still aren't a man of your word as far as I am. You're a business coward. You took 12 grand and you ran off with it. You made a deal, you made a promise for me to get rid of all your debt, all your problems having to go to court. And I did it. I made all my father's problems go away that day. I could have just signed my name and he would have went through hell for at least a year. And I would have got my money and I would have got my first apartment. But I needed to know what my mother knew about what she was doing to me. I had no idea that Munchausen syndrome was a thing. I didn't know the symptoms of epilepsy. I didn't know the difference from epilepsy and anxiety. But now I do. I'm 32 and I'm going to try to fix this. And instead, people just continue to want to use me. During COVID, I worked over 60 hours while getting injured on the side of the road. I had the flu at one point. I had infections. I needed surgery to remove all my teeth. And all people cared about was, when can you give me money? When can you pay me back? How much more hours can you do? Can you cover my shift? Hey, you're essential worker. You're essential worker. You're essential worker. Like that. Why does that matter? You tell me I'm an essential worker, so I have to risk my life and get sick. But when COVID's over, you tell me I don't even deserve and what? Any benefits? While other people were sitting on their ass collecting 600 to do nothing. I worked hard while disabled, while bleeding on the side of the road. I'd like to hear one person say they walked to work during COVID because their transportation broke down. They were injured. They were receiving extra injuries. They were working extra hours. and they were an essential service worker that did not leave work when they caught the flu, and they had to work the whole time during COVID. I like to hear one person say they can work that hard like I did for a whole entire year. By the end of that, I needed lots of medication. The doctors needed to give me opiates. I was willing to take fentanyl. I was willing to do anything after that. I was bloodied up. Yeah, that definitely. I had a relapse then too, 6 months. The only relapse I've had in about 7 years straight was a 6 months relapse with opiates because of that shit. Yes, getting literally overworked, over injured, over everything, and the fucking hospitals don't want to do shit. My father never wants to take responsibility for his actions, not when I was 5, not when I was 8, not when I was 12, not when I was 15, not when I was 20. And if I try to talk to him about something, even as old as I wasn't getting an education at all, he goes into fantasy land. No, you're just stupid. Dad, did you ever think to listen to me instead of a crazy woman about me? Did you ever think about that? Did you ever think maybe you would like me better if you knew me instead of some other crazy evil person me? Because that's all you're doing is believing in a fantasy. That's all I hear from a lot. And the worst part is the fantasy was told to the doctors for years and they're always different. Sometimes the doctors caught on to what my mother was doing, so my mother would leave and rip and go to another place. That was what Texas was really about. My father got a job offer, but he didn't want to go. Now, he'll say nowadays, oh, it was just a job offer. I took a job in Texas. But that's not the truth. My father said he did not want to take the job in Texas. So if my father did not want to take the job in Texas, then why did my father go to Texas? It's not because you had a job offer. No, you said no to that. My father did not want to move to Texas. He made that very clear. So why did he move to Texas? Why, I ask. Whenever you ask that, he blames me. He says, well, my son Zach wanted to go and I was outnumbered because my wife wanted to go. So it's Zach's fault. He was the tiebreaker. That was his excuse for about 10 years. It is the 7-year-old's fault. It's the little orphan boy's fault because he agreed with my mother, because he agreed with my wife. That was his first excuse. But here's the next one. Here's the next one. Here's the truth. Here's the truth. He wanted to go because he was outnumbered. Correct. His wife wanted to go. He did not. And his wife convinced me to say yes. That part is true. But also, I said no. I said no at 7 because I was a 7-year-old. I said yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Cried and said, no, I don't want to go. No, I don't want to go. I cried and said, no, I don't want to go. I cried and said, no. My mother brought me into a room, said, why don't you want to go? I said, it might be windy, it might have tornadoes. She goes, there are no tornadoes. There is no wind. You just say yes and stick to it. So I stuck to my yes and we moved to Texas. Now, when we asked my mother, so my father did not want to move to Texas. I was a 7-year-old who didn't know what he was doing. I said yes and no. So I wanted to move to Texas, yes, and I wanted to stay, yes. I was in between. You can't use me as a tiebreaker because I'm saying yes and no. So why did my mother want to move to Texas? Well, it wasn't for more money. She doesn't care about the more money. She didn't say anything about more money. Well, how about her friends? She loves it. Nope, she didn't want to leave her friends. Did she have a better job? Nope, she didn't want to leave her job. So why did my mother want to go to Texas? She said she wanted a change in scenery. She wanted a change in scenery, my mother said. But here's something she wasn't telling everybody. She just OD'd an orphan. Just adopted that orphan. The doctors are catching on to her behavior. She's going overboard with the prescriptions. They're putting me in physical and speech therapy. They're calling home to talk to my mother about my coordination issues, and they're not getting better, they're getting worse. Plus, the doctor heard that my mother gave me medicine, and I blacked out. My eyes went, I couldn't see out of them, I couldn't feel, all my senses went out, and I felt different when I woke up. So the doctors are hearing about that too. So my mother's also stealing swimming medals away and making up stories about them. What at first they believe, but later they understand my mother's going crazy. But they're only starting to see it. But my mother goes, Texas? Yeah, let's try it. That will be all brand new. All this will go away. I could try again. I could try drugging him again. I could try to make him mentally ill again. I can try to fuck with this kid again over there. So she moves me to Texas, does what needs to be done. They move me to Texas. My mother tries it. They don't do it. They say, fuck you. You're not getting these meds. There's nothing wrong with this boy. There's something wrong with his movements. And then I talked to the doctor about how I had that overdose at age 7. And then about a little bit after that, my mother takes me out of Texas, finds a program in New Mexico for attachment disorder, and throws me in there. Even though the only person with attachment disorder is my mother and my father. They're not attached to me at all. They're using me, drugging me. My mother thinks I'm out to get her, just crazy ass shit. Meanwhile, I'm hugging them. I'm tucking them in. I'm bringing them swimming medals. I'm calling them mommy. I'm calling them daddy. I'm loving, I'm hugging them. I'm trying to spend time with them. So obviously, but they keep on hurting me. That's a problem. I need mom to stop hurting me. That's all. That's it. Mom just needs to stop hurting me. I want her to stop hurting me. Please stop mom from hurting me. And even her grandson said, can you please stop my grandmother from hurting Zach? I mean, in other words, but this is an ongoing thing throughout my childhood and life. Can somebody stop Patricia from hurting Zach? Nope. All the way to the day she died and still today. I'm 32 years old. I need certain medical care. And still today, I get denied services. I have to deal with bullshit. And I get a bunch of shit down there. And still, my father and his new wife try to fuck with my health care, making it impossible for me to survive or stay alive. And they finished me off. I was already on my last legs. And now they just try to fucking cut everything. So now I'm probably going to be found dead in the woods. I'll probably be freezing to death. Now, the only problem with that is when I start freezing to death, I get suicidal after about the 3rd time they bring me back to life. Once when I die like 3 times and somebody brings me back to life, I start getting really depressed. And I know this because I lived in the woods before and they brought me back to life several times. They found me frozen, found me unconscious, found me frozen, found me mugged, found me with head injuries. And after about the 3rd time of really them saying that they were about to pronounce you dead, they did pronounce you dead on arrival, but then they found a heartbeat. When you hear these things, and then you find out like they're about to amputate your feet, and you have to go to drastic measures just to stop an amputation. When you have these type of things going on, you gotta kill yourself, or you just gotta find an indoor place. But I don't have any more strength. I can't move. What am I gonna do? Use one finger? If I'm on the ground, I'm on the ground. I can't even move a finger half the time. So I'm just stuck there to freeze to death. And then when I get back up, when I get a little better from the seizure or head injury, and I'm mumbling and sounding like a crazy person, I'm not even allowed to use the shelter because nobody knows why. The minute I try to go in the shelter, they throw me out. The minute my legs don't work, or I fall down in the shower because it's cold or something like that, they throw my ass right to the street because I don't have paperwork on it. They think I'm playing a game. I'm not playing no fucking game. I have epilepsy. I have problems with cold, flashing lights, loud noises, touch. It causes electrical discharge to go into my spine, neck. It usually goes out through my limbs and extremities, causing a shake-like motion. If I try to use my nervous system, or if I have any stimulus like an infection, it also puts pressure on this, causing a constant discharge in my back and neck, making it hard to speak and move all the time. And that means every time I try to move a limb or a leg, I will get spasms and discharges. And it makes it hard to speak, walk, talk, move. But that doesn't mean I'm doing it on purpose. I'm not telling myself to fall down on the ground. I'm not telling myself to make these weird noises out of my mouth. I'm trying to say complex words, but I can't. Like if I wanted to say nervous system or extremities, I've been able to say the word extremities since I was like, I don't know, 14, 15. But at times I can't say it. I have to call them, my hands and legs wiggle and move in a weird way and shake. And then they think I sound like an idiot. No, I know what epilepsy is. I know what extremities are. I know the empathetic nervous system. The empathetic nervous system is your lungs, your heart, and the things that automatically go. I understand these concepts. I understand what the aorta is connected to the kidneys. I understand how your intestines work. I understand if you lift your leg up when taking a poop on a little stoop, that actually lifts up a part of your lower intestine. It's actually not your intestine, it's your colon. I think it's your colon. It takes pressure off your colon, allowing your bowel movements to flow more freely. I understand these concepts. I understand these things. I understand a lot of things about the drug addicts because I took classes. I'm actually trained on helping addicts. I have actual paperwork that I received, took classes after classes, so I could become a addiction specialist. And if I keep going, I could be the best in the world. But that's first is first. I need my own medical treatment, and it's nothing to do with a mental illness, and it's nothing to do with addiction. I'm already sober, so I got my addiction under wraps. Now, the hardest part about that is that means I might have to die. Because let's say I have to go to work today and it's nighttime and I have to look at flashing lights and walk there in the cold. There's a chance I might not live on the way. So, but if I take Triliptal and I take Ativan and a nip, I know that nothing will hurt me because my epilepsy will be cured or treated, partly treated for a couple hours. And I'm more likely to survive that trip. But I'm not going to drink a nip. I'm not going to take Ativan. I'm not going to do any of that because I'm sober. So instead, I have to go to work and die and fall on the side of the road and wake up bleeding. Now, that's the hardest part about this, is knowing I'm going to die because I'm doing the right thing. Meanwhile, somebody else is vacationing, drinking, partying, dying himself in denial, my father. And there's already somebody dead who did this to me, my mother. And there's a whole family of people who are left out because my mother and father didn't want to tell them the truth at any time. I'm sure they were telling them, spinning them all different types of lies about me. I've seen the looks out of nowhere about nothing. I don't know what the stories are, but they always twisted them. Like, for instance, when I was thrown out, I stole drugs that were illegal that somebody else brought into the house. That's it. I stole jewelry I thought was my mother's when she was dead. I admit to it. Now, do you think that my aunt, Alice, the person who brought illegal drugs into the house that I was paying for, by the way, do you think that they told these people giving me evil looks that they brought in illegal drugs and that's what I ended up passing out on? Do you think that they told them that they were giving away my inheritance and stole my inheritance as well? Because I don't care about any of getting anything. I don't want anything. But I don't want to be lied to and used and manipulated or any of that. If there's an inheritance that I'm supposed to collect and you want to take it from me, then you talk to me about it and you work it out with me. You don't steal, manipulate, and lie. What? And then it's what, you think it's okay for somebody else to steal from you, and then it's not the okay way around? Yes, you stole my inheritance. Your lawyer called me and I put it together and I talked about it and I did some research. And yes, you lied your way in to take an inheritance right after you already lied and manipulated me out of my first apartment, my clothing, and you got in trouble with the state and you were being brought up on charges to go to court to pay me back so I could pay them back. And the whole time I bailed you out. And now, after I give you all that love, I bail you out. I help you with your wife. I try to keep your wife alive and strong. I try to get her not to drink. I try to make sure she's not taking pills. I even tell you, please stop the pills. Tell her to stop taking pills. Oh, look at these pills. I'm bringing it to my father's attention. I'm doing all these right hard things by him. It's hard for somebody to stand up to their father and say, hey, your wife is taking pills up there. These aren't easy things to do, but I accomplished the task. I found out what was wrong with my mother. She was taking pills. I brought it to my father. He went upstairs. She said it was only one time. He goes, no, okay, let her do it. I'm not the one who had the problem. I had a health problem called epilepsy, and I had a lot of stuff to go along with that. But no, my behaviors at the time, the worst problem is when I was taking pills and I was confused and loopy. Yeah, I gotta admit, that was pretty bad. The pills my mother had me taking, no good. I would go loopy at nighttime when I took them. Sometimes if I took Benadryl and with those, oh boy, I would start like hallucinating during the day. Like one time they had me on 50 milligrams of Seroquel during the day. That's the day dose of Seroquel, 50 milligrams. At night, 600 milligrams of Seroquel mixed with 200 of Trazodone, mixed with 150 of Thorazine all together at night. But during the day, 50 milligrams of Trazodone with a lithium. And then I would take a Benadryl sometimes. If I'd mix those together, you know what the fuck would happen? I didn't know this. I would just have allergies. I would take the Benadryl. I would fucking hallucinate a little bit. It wouldn't be like any thing coming around, but the door would kind of start wiggling, and I would feel like it was getting lower and lower, and I had to keep looking down. Yeah, it was not fun. It was not fun being drugged. And then I would tell the doctor, can you cut me off? He'd say, give it time, give it time. Your mother says you need it. Your mother says you need more drugs, more drugs. Your mother wants you on more drugs. Your mother says you have this. And then my mother at home would tell me, Zach, you got this disease. And Zach, you got this disease, trying to convince me I got them. Sometimes she would give me diseases by drugging me too. I call that Munchausen syndrome is what my mother had. And I was a victim of it. And my father loves victim blaming, so I'm going to die from victim blaming and from people hurting me. And I don't get a choice in the matter. If you think, oh, he made bad choices, I don't get a choice in the matter. I'm choosing to go to work, go to the doctor, sign the paperwork, make the phone calls, help other people, work with the churches, help the disabled children, help disabled adults, try to help build buildings, clean up the environment. These are the things I do. I make good choices in my life. But this isn't a choice. Me dying from somebody else's choices, that's not a choice. If somebody comes up in back of you, stabs you in the back, that's not a fucking choice. You got stabbed in the back, now you're going to drop and die because somebody else made the choice to hurt you. You didn't make the choice to get hurt. You're the victim. You're the victim, and remember that, because a lot of victim blamers will try to convince the victim to believe that it's their fault they're hurt when somebody else does something. It's quite common. It's really big, actually. It's a really big one. I used to see it in childhood quite a bit, where somebody might accidentally bump somebody and go, watch where you're going. But you're the one who bumped me. I'm just standing here. Yeah, but watch where you're going. Now, see, that's victim blaming. If you're running down a hall and you bump into somebody, knocking them down, and then you turn to them and say, watch where you're going, when that guy was just standing still talking to his girlfriend, that's your choice. You chose to run through the hallways. You bumped into this guy. You knocked him over and got him hurt. But yet these people are saying, oh, get out of my way. You were in my way. It's your fault you were in my way. That is what I'm seeing in adults today. I'm seeing this in 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds. I'm seeing this all over the place. People who were teenagers who couldn't take responsibility just for running in the hall are now blaming other people for crimes and bigger stuff. It's fucked up. And I'm always the victim. Oh my God. I guess I'm just good at getting hurt at this point. I mean, 25 years of having people hurt you and not having a choice in the matter, I guess it's good practice. But I'm trying to help other people. That's my mission now, is to make sure nobody else ever gets hurt. If I can prevent these situations from forming in the first place, that's what I want to do.